My name is Madison. My name is Madison Burris. I work on the ESS-DIVE team. I'm a computer systems engineer, and you may see me on, if you have emailed ESS-DIVE before, you may have seen me answer some of your questions or introduce you to other team members there. And so our webinar for June is to discuss ESS-DIVE's new project data management features. Our objectives throughout this webinar are to just introduce these new features to you, the motivation for why we've brought these features to our community. We'll discuss how to set up these features, and for this webinar, the how-to section will be focused on a live demonstration to just better familiarize everyone with how to interface through these new features, and yeah, throughout the whole process, everyone can feel free to pipe in with questions, or of course write anything down in the chat. And at the end, we would love to hear from anyone in our audience today to let us know what you think your project needs. After learning a bit about these features, do you feel like these features will meet your project needs? Are there things that you think ESS-DIVE can consider for the future? We'll go into this more, but we hope to keep you thinking about that during this webinar. And again, so this webinar is focused on presenting this information to PIs and project data managers, and I'll go into more detail as to why later. So as usual, we like to start our webinars with some questions to better understand our audience. So you can answer these questions via poll everywhere. I'll get the link in the chat. But if you just copy this into your browser, you can just easily interact and answer this question. So we really do like to hear who is coming to our webinars and just generally what roles within their research group they fill. Thanks, Joan. But yeah, thank you. Appreciate the responses, everyone. Of course, this is totally optional, but we do like to hear, hear from our community and our audience. So I'll just linger on this page for just a little bit longer, just because we have another question after this. So I want to give people an opportunity to respond. Great. I'm glad to see we have some of our target audience members with us today. Okay, our second question for this morning. Let's see if I can get this going. Oh, apologies, I'm trying to advance to the next slide, but there we go. Okay, so something else that we wanted to just hear up front is how our projects hope to manage their data on ESS-DIVE. Now, this is a broad question, so I just want everyone to know that this is our second question this is going to be our last question before I start the webinar, and it will remain active throughout the presentation. So if you're thinking about it and haven't figured out what you want to say just yet, you can respond later on. But one option for how you might want to answer this question is maybe you have a single data manager on your project, and you would like that one data manager to kind of oversee the management of your data sets on ESS-DIVE rather than have it managed by individual data contributors. This is just kind of an example of maybe something that you can respond to here, but we're hoping to get an understanding of maybe what some of your before I show you the features, what some of your unbiased thoughts are on what you would like to see on ESS-DIVE. And I don't want to pressure anyone to respond right now. So again, I'll just leave this question open. And if you think of things as we go along, please do respond to that. Thanks, appreciate that. Okay. So let's get started. Let's get started by going over some of the new project management features. And first, I would like to just go over our existing product data management features. So currently, we've had the ability to share data sets, which is, a data contributor can select one or more individuals to collaborate on their data set with them. We have data portals, which is a collection of data sets that's fully customizable. It acts as a website for the data collection and allows the public to access that collection at any time. And external linking, which lets you link your data sets to data sets that exist on other repositories and data systems to keep these related data together as you make them discoverable on ESS-DIVE. And again, these are the three existing data management features. And now we have this new suite of project management data management features that we can add to this our existing feature set. And the focus of this new suite of project features is to enable data set sharing across a project. And I will be going into more detail on this. Okay, so I wanted to start out the session with a motivation on why you might want to use these new project features. So again, it's to make it easier to share access to data sets across your project. And with these new features, you can create teams and share data sets with those teams. And when you share a data set with the team, it grants all team members access to that data set. So what I have here on the right, this screenshot is sort of an example of what the end goal might look like, where you have this group, which in the box you can see it's a group of 3 team members, and they have access to a list of these 7 data sets. This is a team profile where you can essentially access see the data sets that a team has access to. And yeah, the idea is that as more data sets are shared with the team, this creates a central location where you can manage access to project data sets across these groups of people. As you're doing this, you have the ability to manage team members. So at first, only PIs and data managers can create teams and manage who is in that team. So a data manager in this case is someone that the PI has approved to manage their project teams. So at first, it is only so not just anyone on your project will have the ability to add and remove people and create teams. It'll just be reserved for the PIs and those they approve. And then and again, you can remove people at any time. And one of the benefits of this is that it lets you change who can access all data sets in a team profile just by changing who is on the team. So currently, as I mentioned, data set sharing is something that has already existed on ESS-DIVE for a while. And this was just for individuals. And so if a data contributor needed to update, wanted to share their data set with someone, they would have to go into their data set and add the person's name or remove the person's names from the data set landing page. But now a PI or a data manager can go to their team and they can remove or add someone to that team, and then it will instantly update the sharing, permissions that are shared across the data set that team has access to. And we'll revisit this again, but just some motivation up front. And again, so with PIs managing team members, now data contributors can simply share their data sets with the team rather than worrying about the different individuals who can access the team, who should be accessing their data, and it pushes that level of management to the PI or data manager level. It's really easy to share data sets with the team. You just need to know what team name you're looking for, and data contributors can add or remove these teams or people at any time if they need to. So they won't be relinquishing that management ability to their PIs. They will share it with them. Or sorry, with the PIs, people who can manage the team. And what the idea here is to start sharing data sets with teams as a default as data contributors are creating their data sets, and then the PIs can then manage those team members as project members change over time. And then in the screenshot, I just have an example of the sharing options window that has one person where the data set is shared with an individual, but then also this team called ESS-DIVE data managers. Okay, so as I mentioned, these are a suite of data management features. And this suite includes the 5 project management features listed here. And when used in tandem, these features support sharing access across a project. I mentioned a couple of things when explaining the motivation, and it kind of gave the impression that there's a few steps that we need to take care of first before we can get to that point of sharing data sets with the team. And these must be set up before you can start using them for each project. So I'll just run through right here, I just have them listed with some quick descriptions. So we have ESS-DIVE project list, which is a controlled list of all the projects approved to store data on ESS-DIVE. We have this project data manager role, which I kind of hinted at already, where it's someone approved by their PI to create and manage teams. We have the My Projects page, which is a place where project managers can access teams and other project information. We have the teams themselves, which is a group of ESS-DIVE users that is managed by the project data managers. And the last note, which is an extension of one of our existing features, which is the ability to share data sets with teams. And to get this whole process set up, this does need to be initiated by the project PI. And again, it's important that they start this whole process before your project can take advantage of this. So let's get into that first item on the list that I just showed you, which is ESS-DIVE's project list. So in some more detail, this is a searchable list of projects that are approved to publish data on ESS-DIVE. As you can see from the screenshot, this lists the project title, the PIs that are associated with that project, and the ESS-DIVE project identifier. This list does introduce these unique project identifiers, and with this, we were able to do away with any of the inconsistent project titles that were previously used to upload data to ESS-DIVE. You used to be able to write in whatever project name you wanted, and that led to some minor typos and some differences in project title versions over time as project changed. But now this can be managed with this list, and it's controlled list, and it's from this list that ESS-DIVE generates the project titles that are included in dataset citations. So the other added benefit of this list is that it ensures your project dataset citations are consistent with ESS-DIVE. I'm highlighting this as a first step because when you're searching through datasets on ESS-DIVE, as you're setting this up and you're managing your datasets, you'll want to be able to locate your project datasets by the project title that is associated with these datasets in their citation. And so having your project title in order makes search and discovery for management purposes easier, in addition to making sure that for any future dataset that your project creates, it will be under a consistent project title. So we really recommend that PIs and data managers come to this list and make sure that the project title and the PI list are up to date. And if it's not up to date, or if by chance you don't find your project in this list at all, PIs will need to email ESS-DIVE in order to update project information or to add a project. we won't be able to update a project information unless the person contacting us is one of the listed PIs in our records. Okay, next let's talk about the second item on that list of features, which is project data managers. So a project data manager is a role in ESS-DIVE that enables you to access your projects and your project teams. And so it's important to establish who your project data managers are on your team, on your project first before you can start working with teams. And again, to highlight the importance of PIs initiating this process, we do require that PIs approve who the project data managers will be. We need them to send that information out to us. So let's talk about more how you might become a project data manager. So for PIs and any co-PIs that are on our project list, you can automatically become a project data manager. No additional approval is required, but you do need to be a registered data contributor before ESS-DIVE can assign you as the project data manager. So some PIs may notice that they are already a project data manager on ESS-DIVE. And this would be because you registered as a data contributor at some point, and so we were able to automatically add you. But if you're a PI and you don't see that you're a project data manager on a project, the blocker is possibly that you have not yet registered as a data contributor. So it's really important to get that step out of the way. And if you are registered and you still can't access your project, then you'll just need to contact ESS-DIVE and we can work that out for you. So for anyone who is not a PI, who's not listed on our project list as a co-PI, you will need PI permission to access, to be a project data manager and access teams. And so to do that, just like PIs, it's important to be registered as a data contributor first. And then you'll just need to ask your PI to fill out the Add Project Data Manager form that will give you the necessary approval for the ESS-DIVE team to add you as a project manager to your project. And one other important thing to mention about this process is that when you become, if you're on multiple projects and you do this process once, you won't be added to all of your projects all at once. Project data managers need to be assigned one project at a time. So for PIs, if you're a PI on multiple projects, then you'll find that you will be added to those projects at once. But if you're a PI on one project and you're a regular member of another project, then you'll need to request from the PI on that second project to add you. And we'll talk about more how you can check in on the progress of this. So when you become a project manager and you're on the project list, you'll notice that a My Projects tab will appear on the projects page. This My Projects tab is how you'll access more project, will access your project and further project management features. So on the My Projects page, this gives you a list of all the projects that you're a project manager on. So in other words, you can, if you are able to access the My Projects list, you can click on it and then you can quickly check which projects you are assigned project data manager to. And so if you don't see this page at all, or you don't see all of your projects here, that's when you can reach out to ESS-DIVE or reach out to your PI to figure out how to get you assigned. And then when you select one of the projects in this list, this will take you to the project information page. On the project information page, you'll see principal investigators listed. The project data managers who are assigned to your project will be listed here, as well as the sponsor program, which is some additional information about your project. And so this is one way to quickly check who else has project data manager access to your project. without needing to interface with the ESS-DIVE team. So another thing about the project information page is that this is where you'll access your project teams. So let's check out what this looks like. The My Teams page, again, just lists the teams that you are a member of. So this is to say that it won't list, well, actually, let's just go into these bullet points here first. So you can view the teams that you're a member of, but this is also where you will create teams for your project and manage team members in those teams. And projects can have multiple teams, so you don't need to have one catch-all team. Project data managers can each create multiple teams for their project and manage them accordingly. So I have this little blurb here at the bottom that says project managers won't be able to see a project team here unless they are added to that team. So you may notice as you work with this feature more, if there are multiple project data managers on your team, you may only be able to see the team that you created at first. And this may just be because you have not been, your fellow project managers haven't added you to the team yet. So this is just something to keep in mind, and we will revisit. So we do ask you consider adding project managers to every team within your project to prevent that level, to make your projects more visible to all your project managers. And I also wanted to go over in these screenshots just the difference between assigning project data managers and a team. So a project, the list of project data managers who can manage your teams are not a team themselves, and they behave differently. So if you would like to have a team of project data managers, this would be something you would need to create after assigning all your project data managers to your project. And then the teams themselves, you can add any ESS-DIVE user to a team. An ESS-DIVE user here is defined as someone who has logged into ESS-DIVE with an ORCID. So they don't need to be a data contributor to be added to a team. And one important thing to know about teams is that you cannot rename or delete a team once it's been created. So and you'll see this in the My Teams page when you go to create teams with this little reminder here that says choose wisely, you cannot change this name later. So you can continuously add and remove people to a team over time, so you still have that level of management, but if you change your mind later about how you want your team to be named, you won't be able to, you would have to create a new team to do so. And so with this in mind, knowing that you can't change the team name later, it's important to consider who you want to be on that team and what you want your teams to be for before you officially create them. And so this is why ESS-DIVE recommends using our test service sandbox to play around with teams. And I'll show you this later in the demo. But it is a really handy tool to use Sandbox to test out both the submitting data sets, but also just testing any of ESS-DIVE's features. This Sandbox will always be available to you as a resource to get familiar with ESS-DIVE features. So again, I just have that reminder, that we want to be thinking about who's on a team and what teams are for. So what are some things that a team might be used for? You might create a team for data managers, and these are people who need to manage project dataset permissions and manage overall dataset publication on ESS-DIVE. You might want a team of collaborators on your project who will need to be editing the same datasets together and get them ready for publication. Or maybe you have some people who some reviewers who all they need to do is view private data sets. And again, you can have as many teams as your project needs, so you can have all these teams going on at once and managing their team members over time. We also have some general recommendations for how you might name a team. We break down team names into a prefix and a suffix. So you can just use a common prefix across all of the teams in your project as one way to keep things in order. So in this case, in the screenshot here, I have a team named ESS-DIVE Data Managers. In this case, ESS-DIVE refers to the ESS-DIVE project. We have published a couple of data sets on ESS-DIVE. We have our own data sets to manage, and so we chose the prefix ESS-DIVE for our team. And then in this case, the suffix we chose is data manager to refer to the level of access we intend all the team members to have. In this case, that would be manage access. And in general, again, I have the reminder here that you may want to have a team for project data managers, just as a group that can have a certain level of access to all your project data sets. And finally, the last thing about teams I wanted to mention is this concept of team owners. So a team owner or a co-owner is someone that can add and remove team members over time. So project data managers, like I mentioned before, they'll have this list of teams, and they may not necessarily be able to view all teams unless they are a part of the team. And so let's say you're added to a team that one of your fellow project data managers created. They would then have to give you the ability to manage that team by starting you. And yes, so the project data manager who created the team is the only owner at first, and you can create owners simply by starring the team member. So next, let's talk about sharing data sets with teams. So there's an important concept that we need to convey, is that data sets are not shared with any project teams by default. So here is a point of reference. I have an example of a test team I created on Sandbox. And as you can see, there's this text here on screen that says that this team hasn't submitted anything yet. And so this is what you'll see when you create a team for the first time, is that it has access to no data sets. And so even though you create a team within your project page, that project page doesn't have permissions and access tied to the project data sets. So what projects will need to do is to manually share all project data sets with teams in order to create project-wide access to data sets. And we recommend that PIs and project data managers work together with data contributors to make this happen. And just some rationale as to why we have this is just that we wanted teams to have the team permissions to be simple and not assume how projects want to share their data, because each project will have a different idea of how they want to share and manage their data. And so this is one of the things that we wanted to better understand throughout this presentation with the poll everywhere question I asked at the beginning, and also for our feedback session at the end, is that we'd like to better know how projects want to share access to their data sets amongst project members. And then when we better understand that, maybe there's ways that ESS-DIVE can help support projects. Some things that we recommend. So with these features, we hope, with the addition of these features, we hope that projects can start incorporating the sharing with teams into their workflow. And to this end, we recommend that data contributors start sharing their data sets with data managers or other teams that data managers recommend at the time that contributors are submitting a new data set. Again, since we don't have default access to data sets, this means that when a new data set is created, the quickest way to let your project data managers know that this data set has been created is to share it with them. And then once the data set is shared with teams and with data managers, they can then access those shared data sets from the team profile, and project data managers can change who's on the team to change who has access to this profile. And again, just another recommendation that we think it might be best to share access with data managers as early as possible. Okay, and then just to revisit how sharing works, sharing with individuals and sharing with teams works the same. This is something that occurs on the, apologies, I just noticed that I have a question in the chat. It says, is there a notification to a team when a new data set is shared? So right now there are no notifications. This is just something that you'll see when you visit the team profile page. And so neither the data contributor who created the data set, people who are already shared with the data set, who are already on the data set permissions, or the project data managers, none of these people will be notified when a data set is being shared. Thank you for your question. So again, it works the same. You'll just, when you edit a data set, you'll just click the share button. And when you share, you'll have access, you'll have the ability to choose from 3 different permission types. I was talking about managing and editing and viewing before. And so when you view a data set, when you give view permission, the main advantage is that you'll be able to view a private data set. So if you select view for a public data set, you'll notice that you have no additional permissions on the data set, because once a data set is public, anyone can view it. But if you set it while a data set is still private, then, for example, data managers will be able to at least see the data sets when they're created. The next permission type level is editor, and this gives you the ability to not only edit the metadata, but add or remove files, as well as publish a data set. So this might be advantageous for data managers excuse me, who want to manage the publication of data sets on ESS-DIVE. This will give them that ability to determine when a data set is ready to go through the ESS-DIVE review process. But if someone just needs to review the data set, then this access level may be too much, and maybe view would be appropriate. And finally, the third access level is manager, which gives you all the abilities of an editor with the addition of the ability to share that data set with others. And so if a team of data managers has managed permission, then they'll be able to oversee the sharing of that data set in the future as well. And so that's one advantage to having a data manager group with managed access to project data sets. Okay, so I'm wrapping up this section before we head over into the demo, and I just wanted to reiterate why we might share data with teams. Again, this is to collaborate with team members, to collaborate with co-authors and reviewers and data managers. Sharing with teams provides PIs and data managers access to project data sets. Again, you have to manually share those project data sets for PIs and data managers to view them. And some benefits are that this team is a consistent group with the same name, and that doesn't where the members can change over time. So you just need to share your data set with that group instead of with individuals or multiple individuals. And access that, and then access to that data set can be updated over time by updating team members instead of going back into the data set and then updating the data set permissions. And this gives you the advantage of managing team members as people enter or leave your project. And I went over quite a few things in the explanation section. And so this slide here is for your reference in the future. It's just a recap of the essential points in this project setup workflow. And this is just to focus on what does a PI need to do to initiate this process and get projects set up. So this is just a short list. And this is also in our documentation, and it's something that you can refer to moving forward. But to reiterate, these steps are to check the project list to ensure project information is accurate, register as a data contributor, both PIs and all regular project members. PIs will want to fill out that Add Project Data Manager form if they would like someone else on their project to help create and manage teams. You can then visit your project page to verify that you have access, and all the intended project data managers also have access. From there, you can start creating teams, managing the members, managing co-owners, and then start encouraging your project team member to share data sets with those teams. We went over a lot. Does anyone have any questions that they'd like to bring up in the chat, or if they'd like to unmute before we head to the demo? Hi, Terry. Yeah, please.
I started to try and type this out, but I realized it was one of those questions. So if a user comes in and shares a data set with like the data management team, does the team have a default permission set up, or does the user then it shares with the team and then the user then shares the permission level? So that's two distinct things.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
The user does. Yeah, there is no default access level that a team of data managers would receive. It is up to the data contributor to choose the access level for that team.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, that was a great question. Thanks, Terry. Okay. If questions come to mind, please, everyone feel free to interrupt me. But I'm just going to launch into a demo. Oh, actually, I will be launching into a demo. But I will show just a few more slides. I just remembered, apologies. So for setting up a team for your project, again, we recommend practicing with Sandbox. There's quite a few new features that are being thrown at you, and they're all being used in tandem to create sharing across a project. And so we really recommend trying this out in Sandbox. So again, this is a test system. You can practice using any ESS-DIVE feature. We commonly have used it to help new data contributors practice submitting data sets. And this can now be used to help set up your project, and any data on Sandbox is not preserved in ESS-DIVE. So when you create a team or you create a data set on Sandbox, you don't have to worry about that being shown in our main repository. So here is the link to Sandbox if you'd like to check it out yourself. And you'll notice that there is a blue banner that explains that you're on Sandbox when you visit this website. So for my demo, I'll be using a fake project on Sandbox. This project is called ESS-DIVE June 2023 webinar. And you'll see it when I start accessing the project page, but yeah. And I just wanted to mention that if you wanted to try out this on your own after the live demo, anyone from this webinar can join can join the demo team if they'd like to make sure that they're on a team, because not everyone will already have access to a project on Sandbox. So if that's the case, you can just create an org if you don't already have one. You can sign into Sandbox, and then after the webinar, my team will help add you to this project so that you can play around with it and see what it's like. Okay, and with that, I'll go ahead and launch I'll start the demonstration. So I'm in Sandbox. You can check from the banner at the top, and then also you'll see that the total data sets is far different from what we have on a regular repository. So I will head to the project page and click on the My Projects button. And I'm part of two teams. As a member of ESS-DIVE, I have this project available to me here, but as I mentioned, I'll be using this fake project, which I'm PI. And so this is what, and again, this is where you would visit to double check that your project information looks correct. And so not only is that the first step in the process, but it will also be a necessary step in order for you to check out the Teams feature. Okay, so I'll head to my Teams page. And this is my first time creating a team for this project. None of the other so you can see here, we have a list of project data managers. At this time, I happen to know that none of the other project data managers have created a team for this project. And those are, if they did, they shared it with me, that would be if they did create teams and they added me to that team, then I'd be able to see the teams listed here. But for now, it's empty. And I'll skim over this for now, but you'll see bullet points of some of those important points I brought up about creating teams. And you'll see that our documentation is to teams is also linked here. So you'll be able to easily visit that in case you have some questions that our documentation can help answer. All right, so let's get started. Team, so it starts out with just myself as a default member. I'm going to go ahead and start typing in a prefix for my project. In this case, my project is named June webinar, or rather ESS-DIVE webinar June 2023. So in this case, I'm going to shorthand it to, how about, I'm going to do webinar June 2023. And in my case, I want to start by making a data manager team because I want to make sure my other three project data managers can start getting access to data sets. And I really haven't thought about how else I want to share the data sets across my team, but I know that that's something I want to start with. So I'll add the suffix data manager. And when I click away, it will indicate whether or not the team is available. I can test this out real quick. I think, let's see, there is a test team. Oh no, it won't autocomplete. Okay, just kidding. All right, so let me start by adding the project data managers, which I can check here. So we have my co-members will be Joan, Emily, and Dylan. So I'll just go ahead and look for them. Click the add button. Okay, successfully added. Let's add Dylan. Once again, successfully added. And Emily. Okay, and I noticed that as I was typing this out, that there's another option for Dylan here. So I can just, and I wasn't sure if this is the right org ID or the next one or the previous one. So I can just hit this X button and get, just get Dylan out of here and then check the org IDs again. Okay, and then to clarify which one I want, just like that. So now that I have some initial team members and an official title, I'm going to go ahead and create this team. Easy as that. You'll notice that the success message appears down here. So just keep an eye out for that your team will kind of go to the top of this list, and the success message will kind of be a little disjointed. And there might be some confusion about that later. So I'm gonna click on the view it here link, because I know that this will take me to my team profile. And this is just one way that I like to confirm that the team name and the team members look good and are how I expect them to be. And again, there are no data sets here because there are no default permissions associated between project teams and project data sets at this time. So I'm going to go back to the project page, just because I like to see the teams associated with the project. And from here, I can start adding people as co-owners. And with that, we've pretty much, so that's my team. I have it set up. And so now I'm going to start sharing data sets with this team. And again, that occurs at the data set level. I won't be able to manage, or rather, I won't be able to share data sets with this team from this page. So I'm going to go to the data search page, and let's look up my data sets. Okay, so here are some of the data sets that I have access to. So I'm going to click on this data set that I created earlier and hit the edit button. Then share. And I'll look for the the team I just created. Yeah, and just like that, I can select the team name. And I am the person who created this data set, which is why I'm able to so easily access it. As you can see here, that's me. I created it, and I can give the data manager access using the manage button. So I'll hit, and again, this sharing options window and the way it functions and the way you search, it all is the same as when it's all the same as when you share with an individual. We've just added on to this feature to allow teams to be searchable and shared with. Okay, and so the last thing I'm going to do here is check out the team profile now that I have a data set shared with it. All teams will kind of have the title of the name of the team hyperlinked. And when you click on this hyperlink, this will direct you to the profile. And we saw it for a second. I'll look into this some more, you guys. I'm not totally sure why it's not showing up. It may take a second to load, but the intention is that we would see that one data set here. I apologize about that. Yeah, so with that, that's how we would get set up. Does anyone have any questions so far about the points I went over in this demonstration?
I think there are questions, but there's comments regarding notifications, and I think we've noted that, and we'll consider that for future features. Thanks for those comments.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Trevor. Okay, so I'll bring it back to the presentation then. So as you mentioned, you can try this out yourself if you don't already have access to a team on Sandbox. Just log into Sandbox and we will help you get set up after the webinar. So you can review these, and that's pretty much it for our introduction and how-to section of the webinar. You can revisit all these steps in our documentation. The documentation also has this summary workflow that I mentioned earlier in the presentation, and it includes some additional details and links to other sections of the documentation. So this will be a really good resource to refer to as you're hopefully testing things out on Sandbox and getting familiar with things. again, I just wanted to reiterate that, like, once you have your project data manager set up and you have created some teams, you'll want to encourage your data contributors to share data sets. And also any portals with teams. Yeah, but you'll want to, like, once you have these things created and initiated, there'll still be that step of how can you get this into your workflow and start making it more of a default where data contributors are sharing data sets with teams at the onset. But yeah, you can encourage this in your team members, and eventually, we hope that you'll have access to a list of your project data sets that your product team members can address over time. So we're in a feedback session, and I'm actually going to go back to our poll everywhere question if it will display nicely for me. Okay, yeah, we have a couple of answers here, but I guess now that we've gone through and described some of the features, I was wondering if anyone has any thoughts on that they'd like to discuss in the chat or unmute on how you'd ideally like to manage your project data on ESS-DIVE, or even if there's some features here that you think you might try taking advantage of that may suit your project's needs at this time. But yeah, this is more of an open-ended feedback question. And of course, if anyone here needs to leave, at this point, we've addressed the main content of the webinar, and the remainder will just be focused on this exchange where we listen to some of your thoughts and ideas and just have a discussion about it. So I see one of the answers was to use this data as a repository for public access. Excuse me, access. Yeah, let's see, that brings an interesting question. I can make a couple assumptions about this, but I don't know if if someone who submitted that response would want to speak on it some more. Because okay, yeah, thank you for joining us today. Or how about if whoever wrote that they would like to use ESS-DIVE features to manage how metadata and file editing access it works across multiple teams. I'm not sure if someone would like to speak more on that. Okay. Hi, Rob. I see that you submitted a question to the chat, so I'm going to read through that now. Let's see. This manager, 3 weeks would be good. Yeah, so you're a new data manager, and you're asking if it would be a good idea for the previous data manager to set up a team to pass the responsibilities on to me. Rob, I think that could be a good step for your project because your current data manager could share these data sets with you individually. But then I feel like since they're going through the work of doing it for you already, by sharing it, by creating a team, and even if, Rob, you're the only team member on that data manager team, that kind of then sets up your project to take advantage of that team in the future for all those data sets that your data manager shared with you. So I would certainly recommend it if you'd like to give that a shot. I guess one other thing you might keep in mind is, oh yeah, of course, Rob. Yeah, the previous data manager might still be on the data set itself. So ESS-DIVE has the ability to, like if someone's fully exiting the project and you'd like to fully remove them from the like the data manager team, and you'd like to remove them from the data set sharing panel entirely, you might want to be the one to create the team. But we can go over that, and you can. I highly recommend trying it on Sandbox first, just to test it out. You can create some dummy data sets on Sandbox for that were published under your project, and then kind of practice first how kind of like onboarding you as a data manager, and then also the other person leaving your project might work in managing those permissions. You can email ESS-DIVE at any point, of course, if you have some questions or have any trouble along the way. Yeah, of course. Okay, this question is still active in case anyone would like to submit a response. I think we will be closing it officially for a few minutes after the webinar, but thank you everyone who has joined us this morning. I'll stick around for a little bit in case anyone has any other questions or comments they'd like to share. But thank you again, I really appreciate you joining us today.